Hello, my name is Kevin Christensen, the host of this channel, Kevin Wonders. And lately, I've just been thinking about, can we sort of will ourselves out of a emotional state without there being any physical expression of that? Um, and so I asked this question after thinking about it for a little bit and seeing, um, even in my own life, if I am in an emotional state, it sort of follows that I will have some physical expression of that. For instance, if I'm angry or upset, I have a need, or I would have a desire to express that. But then after it's expressed, you tend to feel, you no longer feel angry, right? You in some way will feel like justified for expressing that, or maybe shameful for expressing it too much, right? And so, but the feeling of anger is no longer there because it's had its fulfillment in a physical representation or in a physical expression. And so you think of people who are happy, right? People who, if something happens in their life and now they feel happy because of it, they'll have a tendency to want to celebrate, right? So they might um, like go out for dinner or go out for a drink, or even like smiling, right? Or something on a smaller scale to have a physical expression of that happiness that they're experiencing. And you think of people who are depressed, right? Like this is also true. Their depression, uh, it it sort of plays on their physical state in that they will begin to withdraw from people around them. They will tend to isolate themselves, and this is the physical expression of that emotional state. And what's interesting is it seems that the opposite is also true. That and this is kind of what behavioral therapy suggests, that if you change your physical state, your emotional state will follow as well. So that the depressed person, if they go out and they set goals and they do things that are productive, they will begin to express a that they'll begin to express positive emotional um, or say they'll begin to express positive emotions, and that will actually change their mental state. And I read an article about just how these two things are linked, and it mentioned this is why, like so many actors, they 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 play a romantic couple in a movie, and then they actually become romantically involved. And what's interesting or what the article suggested, is that because they are doing the physical expression of those things meant for intimate partners, that they actually then develop emotionally those intimate feelings. Um, and if this is the case, then I think the conclusion that we can draw becomes powerful, or becomes very um, it gives us a sense of ability to change both our physical and our emotional states. So if I were unhappy with my emotional state, right? If I didn't like where I was emotionally, I could do something physically to change that, right? And if I did something, if I didn't like where I was physically, I could do something emotionally to change that. I think this is why like working out is so effective at changing people's emotional state, because they, for whatever reason, are feeling down, and they go and they do something, and they've like met goals and they've been productive, and now they feel better about themselves. And what's interesting is that like how this like feeling better about yourself sort of plays out um, in the world outside of just the emotional and the physical state of like, because I feel better about myself, I might hold myself differently, and then the opportunities that are um, presented to me are those that would not have been presented to me if I was not holding myself in such a way. So it becomes sort of an interesting and powerful tool that we have to correct both our emotional state and our physical state. Whereas, like, you think of like um, if I was unhappy, like with my job, right? I'm going, or I don't like where I'm at physically. I could do something emotionally that would change that, right? Um, I could sort of like change my perspective on what's happening to me or what's happening in this current situation, and then it sort of like reorients how I view the situation, so that I could then perhaps see a way to change it. So it's kind of an interesting duality that we have, and it seems that it would be, to me, it seems that like there cannot be a completion of a emotional state without some physical representation of that. And so, yeah, I think this is kind of like what the Stoics talked about when they were saying that, like, oftentimes emotions are sort of like unthought and unreasoned reactions to circumstances, and so they really um, stress the importance of interjecting reason into an emotionally charged situation, so that the actions of that emotionally charged situations that would tend to be counterproductive can be like quelled and sort of tempered by reason, so that the outcome can be more productive and more oriented towards that goal that is set, or that goal that is sought to be attained, instead of say just naturally reacting and doing that which is counterproductive to that ultimate goal. But what's interesting is that even still, right, even with the interjection of reason, there's still like there's the emotional state, right? I recognize that is wrong, or that, not that it's wrong, but that it's counterproductive to what I'm trying to accomplish, and so I interject reason that then helps me to temper that emotion, so that I can still act towards that which will accomplish my goal, right? But so that there's still an emotional state, there is like a period of reasoning, and then there is an expression of that emotional state. And so it's sort of just like using reason to take that emotional state and put a healthy spin on it, so that that emotional state then becomes productive. And this is an interesting thing, because it seems that they are so tightly linked, that like an emotion cannot really have its completion, or cannot have its cannot be fully dealt with without a physical expression of it. And so that's been something I've just been thinking about, and it seems very difficult to just like sit in a chair and feel good or feel bad, and then note, like, at what point do I no longer feel good, or do I no longer feel bad? And let's say I put that good feeling, that bad feeling away for later. Like, when it comes back up, is that not still the same emotional state? Right? I've just sort of like hit the snooze button on it, right? I've just sort of put it away until I come back to it later. But until I deal with it in some physical sense, like say I'm unhappy, right? And I'm just sitting here, I go for a walk. I'm like, oh, it's such a beautiful day outside. The sun feels so nice. This physical expression changes the emotional state, and in some way, even you could say that the like negative emotional state has like spurned that positive physical reaction of like going to the gym or going for a walk, or whatever it is. So it just seems that like we as people are so like this emotion, this physical state are so tightly interwoven, that if you change one emotional state, it'll change the physical state, and if you change the physical state, it will change the the emotional state. Although I will say that it seems much more difficult to have a um, like a just a drastic change in the emotional state, in the emotional state that will cause the change in the physical state. Um, so that's something I've been thinking about. Let me know what you guys think, and thank you for watching.